Hello, and welcome to Sick Myth. I hope you'll find today's topic to be informative and fascinating. This is part 3 of a 5-part series. Please enjoy. As we enter the midway point in Catastrophe in Coal Country, I'm starting to realize how insufficient this series truly is. I have barely scratched the surface. The sheer magnitude of coal mining related accidents and catastrophes in Northeast Pennsylvania and statewide over the past 150 years is truly insurmountable. Initially, my goal was to highlight some of the more well-known coal mining disasters in the Wyoming Valley, incidents so many of us locals are innately familiar with. Avondale, Twin Shaft, Buttonwood, Baltimore Tunnel, the Knox Mine disaster, maybe even a segment on Centralia. I recently visited a coal miners' memorial located on East Main Street in Plymouth. The markers were erected in 1987 by Coal Miners Memorial Monument Committee and concerned citizens and organizations. This memorial can be described as, in a word, overwhelming, not by its grandiosity or morbid beauty, but rather by the total number of mining disasters etched in stone, more than 80 if I counted accurately. Dozens upon dozens of mining disasters that occurred between 1846 and 1959 in Luzerne County alone. I can't help but to wonder, who were some of these men and boys who sacrificed so much? Fathers, brothers, uncles, nephews, friends who lost their lives in the coal mines, and all those who labored and suffered. In the early 20th century, the United States was the destination of millions of immigrants in pursuit of the American dream. Work, education, family, safety, diversity, low taxes, prosperity. More than 23 million people immigrated to the United States from 1880 to 1930 alone. Seeking work in the developing industries, immigrants had skills that were valuable to the U.S. economy, and Pennsylvania experienced heavy immigration during this time. Many of these immigrants took jobs in factories, steel mills, and coal mines throughout the state, where they were not restricted because of their lack of English. A large influx of immigrants from many European countries, including Italy, Germany, Ireland, Wales, Poland, Russia, and others, quite literally built this state and changed the demographics of major cities and industrial areas throughout the Commonwealth. The availability of jobs and public education systems helped integrate the millions of immigrants and their families, who also retained ethnic cultures. The influence of these immigrant populations is still strongly felt in the Pennsylvania anthracite coal region, with various towns featuring pronounced ethnic characters and cuisine. Pennsylvania experienced a significant increase in its African American population during the Great Migration. By 1940, African Americans made up almost 5% of the state's population. Coal mining was a major industry in the state of Pennsylvania, beginning in the mid-1700s and continuing through the 20th century. Anthracite coal is rare in the United States and is mostly found in about 6 counties in the northeast part of Pennsylvania, known today as the Anthracite Coal Region, encompassing Carbon, Columbia, Lackawanna, Luzerne, Northumberland, and Schuylkill counties. This region contains the only reserves of United States anthracite coal, which was heavily mined throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries during the largest mass migration in human history. Coal mining became the major industry in and around Hanover Township, located directly between the cities of Wilkes-Barre and Nanticoke. As of the 2020 census, the population was more than 11,000, making it the most populous township in Luzerne County. Coal breakers were constructed throughout the region. One in particular was known as the Huber Breaker. Following the collapse of the mining industry in the Wyoming Valley, the breaker was demolished in 2014. The focal point of today's segment is to highlight an explosion that occurred in the Buttonwood Mine on February 17, 1906, killing 4 timbermen. Located in the Buttonwood section of Hanover Township, the mine was adjacent to the Buttonwood Colliery, built by the Parrish Coal Company in the 1870s. A Wyoming Valley landmark for nearly 70 years, the Buttonwood Breaker had a daily capacity of about 2,500 tons of anthracite coal. In September 1938, the Buttonwood Colliery was shut down and demolished. After it had ceased operations, coal mined from Buttonwood was transported by train to the Huber Breaker for processing. On the evening of February 17, 1906, 4 timbermen stood outside a shanty, or supply shed, approximately 15 feet from the foot of the mine shaft, where dynamite and blasting caps were stored. The men used the shanty to keep warm in the winter elements, to store materials and supplies, and to sharpen their axes before descending into the mine to replace timbers to support shafts. Approximately 80 miners were inside the Buttonwood Mine, hard at work underground. At approximately 9 p.m., a fatal explosion occurred, killing 3 of the men instantly, while a 4th victim died at Wilkes-Barre's City Hospital hours later. Although a coroner's inquest was unable to determine the exact cause of the blast, it is believed that heat from a steam radiator ignited sticks of dynamite stored inside the timberman's shanty. Testimony provided during the coroner's inquest suggested that the shanty door was left open while the timbermen sharpened their axes, allowing heat generated by the steam radiator inside to escape. There was also a window inside the shanty to allow, quote, sufficient ventilation to prevent a high temperature, end quote. Whether the window was open at the time of the explosion remains unknown. 6 of the people on the coroner's jury were unable to state the exact cause of the explosion, rendering a verdict that the tragedy was due to causes unknown, although it was highly probable that heat from a steam radiator ignited dynamite inside the shanty, killing the 4 timbermen outside. The victims left behind wives, children, family, and friends. The age range of the deceased men was approximately 21 to 45. Although this particular catastrophe did not occur underground, in the cold, wet darkness of the mine, and the victims were not miners, but timbermen. During my research for this segment, I learned of 3 other tragedies that occurred at the Buttonwood Mine, including a gas explosion just 10 months later in December 1906, which claimed the lives of 4 men, a gas explosion 5 years earlier in October 1901, killing 6 men, and yet another gas explosion in March 1951, killing 4. And now, I'd like to share some of what's inscribed on the Coal Miners' Memorial in Plymouth, across the river from where the Buttonwood Colliery once stood, in Hanover Township. Hard coal was known to exist in the Wilkes-Barre area as far back as 1768. Boys and men, ranging from 15 years old, worked in the mines, and breaker boys ranged from 8 to 14 years old. They entered the mines early in the morning and came out when it was dark, working approximately 10 to 12 hours in darkness. Desire, ability, and just plain guts got them the job. Many miners, laborers, and other personnel were always subject to danger. To all fathers, brothers, uncles, nephews, and friends who lost their lives in the coal mines, and to those who labored and suffered, you are not forgotten. Thank you for watching part 3 of this series. Stay tuned for part 4, where we explore the Baltimore mine tunnel disaster of 1919, and part 5, which explores the Knox mine disaster of 1959. Please like and subscribe. Until next time, thank you for watching, and take care.